Hello from London. This is the third of a mini-series of quick tips on how to sound more fluent when you're speaking your foreign language. I actually shot the first two from a cafe back in February, just before the lockdown started in London. It's now mid-October. I don't know how many times I'm still going to be able to shoot outside before it gets too wet and too cold. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Gareth Popkins. Here we talk about language learning from many angles. Not only quick tips on my own language learning projects, but a bit of language-focused or language-related vlogging and inspiring interviews with language learners and movers and shakers from the world of languages. If you haven't yet subscribed for the vibe, please do. And a link to my free training that you can get underneath this video. Now, the first tip in the series was to keep it simple when you're in conversation. The second was to speak less and listen more. Good advice, I think, when we're conversing in our own language. Now, a thing that links these two, I suppose, is the need to maintain the confidence of the person you're talking to, that you understand what they're saying and that you are someone that they can relatively easily talk to in their language. Otherwise, there's a risk they're going to switch to English, or they're just going to give up on conversation with you. Whereas you, of course, want to get as much communication as possible going on, as much chance to practice, and you want to get to know people in your foreign language. So in a sense, you've got to fake it till you make it. Keeping it simple and listening more are ways of doing that. The thing is, though, if you're just listening a lot, there will be times when you just simply get left behind in the flow of the language. So you do sometimes have to interrupt and to intervene. So the third tip is use the power of questions to do this. Rather than admitting that you don't understand, you can use rather more subtle comprehension-checking questions, perhaps. So it could be a leading question like, so you're saying you never drink milk, you never take milk in your coffee, then? No, I said I always take milk, but I never take sugar, for example. Or, so we're meeting at 6 p.m. tonight then in front of the cinema? No, I said 6:30 p.m. Now, that, I think, is a better way to keep the conversation moving than admitting that you haven't understood everything, which puts attention on your abilities again. This way, the conversation continues to flow, and you're also flagging up that you have understood quite a lot of what's going on. That we're talking about meeting at the cinema, or we're talking about my coffee drinking preferences, for example. So again, you're signalling you've understood a lot, putting emphasis on the positive and keeping the confidence levels high between you and the person you're speaking to, I think. Now, it follows if we're going to use questions as much as possible when we're starting to speak and when we're intermediate speakers, and there is still quite a lot that we don't understand, that we need to focus on how questions are formed in our target language. The examples I've just used in English, so you're saying we're going to meet at 6 in front of the cinema. The question there is, the question effect is achieved in English through intonation. So be aware of how intonation is used in your target language. It may also be a language that uses intonation to form questions, such as Hungarian, but has a very different question intonation in it. It may be grammatical changes in sentence structure, which are used to formulate questions, as happens in English. Can I instead of I can, for example, switching the verb and the subject. In German as well, it works that way. It could be very simple question tags, such as ma, excuse the tone there, and ka, is ma in Chinese, and ka in Japanese. But there may be simpler and more complex ways of asking questions, so it's worth being aware of those too. German has the inversion in the verb-subject order, like in English, but it also has simply, you can say oder nicht wahr, sort of question tags, just as in English we might say, right? So we're meeting at 6 p.m., right? Yeah. So look out for simple ways to ask questions in your language and start using them as soon as possible. That way you're going to keep the person you're speaking with confident that you're understanding what's being said, and the conversation will flow a bit better than it might otherwise have done. In the last resort, yes, you can fall back on that key question, can you repeat that please? I haven't understood. But better to be a bit more subtle. And remember that very often the gist will suffice. If we're talking about coffee drinking habits, for example, unless you're actually ordering for the person or fixing them a coffee, does it really matter whether they take milk or not? It might be a bit more important to arrive at the cinema at the right time. Good luck then as you get out there speaking your language, and look out for the next tip in this mini-series. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, to subscribe for the vibe, think about a thumbs up, tickle that bell, and share the affair. See you next time. Bye.